Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about One Piece Season 1, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So in this episode, we finally get the breakdown about Nami's circumstances, what happened in her past, what kind of made her kind of the way she is currently, and also why she's working with Arlong in the first place. We deep dive into that history. We find out about her mom and her sister Nojiko and their circumstances. Because when we first introduced to Nami, like obviously back to present day, she's playing cards with him, and that's got to, considering her history, that's what makes it so tough for Nami. That's what makes it even more tragic and sad, the circumstances of like, right, these people did what they did. They attacked your home, the only home you've kind of known for the past few years, because her mom wasn't her biological mom. Her mom found her. I didn't even remember her mom being a Marine at all, but it's like, yeah, she found you and took care of you, and the entire time Nami's working for Arlong, she's had to grit her teeth, put up with not only being hated with herself, having to work with the man that murdered her mother, but also working with having to have everyone in the village that she grew up in, even her own sister, hate her, because it's like, how could you go work for that monster who's continuing to bleed our village dry and so many other places? But also, like, how could you do that and just leave us all behind? Because Nami thought she was doing what she thought only she could do. And it is interesting, obviously, it's like, even as a kid, she kind of had that mentality of like, well, if I want something, I'll just take it, because it's like, right, she grew up poor, and that's why she has the mentality she does against Kaya back in like episode 3, because she's like, oh, the rich, because she came from such a poor upbringing where it's like, right, we can kind of barely make ends meet, but her mom was like, it's never okay to steal, because we're more fortunate than other people. We have each other, we're a family, and we have a roof over our head. But for Nami, it's like, we're not even a real family. You're not my real mom. She's not really my sister. I'm tired of having to just eat tangerines because we can't really afford to eat anything else. We're eating what's kind of around us, but it's like, that's kind of no way to live. And so for Nami, she's got the mentality, if I want something, I'm just going to take it, And now, and obviously it's a little more innocent as a child, and we see that kind of developed in the way Nami is now. But that's why I talked about why I previously it's called her kind of a gold digger character, because it is one of her traits of she gets obsessed with money. But I also said that I taken it back, like that next review, I was like, I feel bad because of the negative connotation of what a gold digger is, because I knew where all of that was rooted in for Nami, of like never wanting to go back to be in that position again, because for her money means everything, because that was the only way she was going to free Cocoa Village. Because the reason why her mom had to die is because her mom didn't have enough to pay tribute for herself and both of her daughters, and she sacrificed herself to save her daughters. It's like, right, that 100,000, let it cover both my girls, and my life will be forfeit. Because, and she even apologized, I'm sorry I couldn't have been a better mother to you, But obviously she sacrificed so much from them, because the moment she met them after a battle with some pirates in the aftermath, meaning like both of their biological parents, both her and her sister's biological parents most likely died because of these pirates. But it's like the moment she met them, she felt like, I knew what I was supposed to be and do. Like from now on, it's to protect both of you. And she feels like she failed in some shape of way, but it's like, she did, and she did the best that she could. That's all any parent can do under the circumstances, especially with a situation like the fishermen, like attacking Cocoa Village and draining them of everything they have, And you can tell, like I said, like Nami's just gritting her teeth working along Arlong. We saw it back with Luffy of like, yeah, she didn't want them to die. She said as much to Zoro, like, that's why I never get close to people. I don't want the people closest to me who get close to me hurt. So she puts up a wall around herself of like, yeah, just everyone's a means to an end. That's why she also kind of believes the worst in people, because I think it's because she believes the worst in herself, and she's seen the worst of the worst. And so she kind of attributes, I think, that to a lot of other people as well. So she kind of doesn't want to kind of believe people when they're good, but now she's around this knucklehead crew of hers, and she's seeing a different, like, I think for the first time in a long time, she's smiling. I mean, the few times we've seen Zoro smile has been around this knucklehead crew, and so it is that thing of like, it's melting like that sadness away, because she kind of found a new family after losing her previous one, like once again, her and her sister don't have a good relationship since she started working for her Arlong. Her mom's gone. She's all the sacrifices she had to make just for the purposes of like, hey, I want to I want to protect my town. I want to do right by everyone, even if they have to hate me in the process. I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna let everyone know what I'm doing because I will shoulder this burden on my own. She's been shouldering this since she was a child. As a child, she made this decision that she was gonna, because her mom said, like, I know you'll do the right thing. And this was Nami. She kind of had to go about it in a scandalous way. She had to cheat, manipulate, and lie, but she did, it was all for the greater good, Because I also love how that left the crew so conflicted, because Sanji was kind of more on the Luffy side. Well, Sanji's on the side of like, well, like, Nami's a mysterious woman. You don't know like her motivations of why she did what she did. But then Zoro's like, she made it pretty clear she made her choice. But he's like, yeah, but you don't know why she made that choice. And Luffy says what I said he's feeling last episode. He wants to hear it from Nami herself. If that's the choice he made, he wants to hear it from her directly. So they're tracking her down. I think Usopp's kind of on that same boat as well, which I love the entire time. He's like, yeah, you want me to go back to the Marriott? I mean, I think I'm more of like the sea body, not trudging on land type of body. So you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. Like, the fact is, it was like Usopp's cowardice. It's like, no. I think I'm better served on the ship and stuff like that. So they ran into Nami and her taking money from Cocoa Village, and they ended up falling after Nojiko, who like had a gun pointed at them. I also love, it's like, wait, who are you? He's like, Monkey D. Luffy, I'm a pirate. Zoro's like, Hunter, we're here for the bounty on Arlong's head. So it's like, yeah, they already have a negative connotation towards pirates. Let's not add more fuel to that fire. When they had to deal with Arlong, like any more pirate stuff, they're not going to believe you're here for their best interest and wanting to help in any capacity. I didn't even think about it at the time about Nami's money that she had stashed away. I was like, because we know she's been collecting it for the past like 9 years. But what I thought was so interesting is like, right, we did see at the beginning when she was playing that card game, she stashed the money away in her satchel. I guess like little by little, she's been taking some from the fishermen, as well as probably any other job she's had to do for Arlong. She's probably gone out there and stolen a little bit at a time. And she eventually, it took her 9 years, but she eventually got that 100 million berry. But the moment Arlong found out that she was so close, like, wait, you have all of it? Like, he was never going to let Nami go. It's like, for one, she's too good at what she does. Even as a kid, she was the best, like, map drawer and, like, mapping everything out. It's like, you had a skill set from the very beginning. She was always drawn to maps. And so it's like Arlong was never going to let her go. She's too valuable to him. So, of course, he's going to jeopardize that. I mean, for one, we see that he's got some Marines in his pockets, which kind of goes back to that thing of, man, there's no absolute good and there's no absolute evil across any board. There are bad Marines just like there are good pirates, so. And this guy because he's covering up a lot of Arlong's trails, so the world government isn't even aware of like all the shady stuff he's doing, all the islands he's shaking down and stuff like that. Like him trying to expand his empire to completely take control of the East Blue. Then he plans to go to all the other seas out there past the Grand Line. Especially like, and I brought this up, I think last episode where I was talking about Arlong, where it's like, you can feel sympathetic in regards of, yes, he is fighting for the fisherman plight. Like, we have been indentured servitude. We weren't even allowed in your cities. We had to build places of our own. We were kind of seen as less than. We never had the same rights, but we deserve more because, he was like, not that dude, was it Nezumi or whatever, was kind of like, yo, like, all fishermen have the same rights as humans. Like, that slavery and stuff was abolished, but it doesn't change the history. Plus, it's like we're still seen as less than. We might not be quote unquote slaves, but we're still servants and we have to abide by it. It's like, but one of a fisherman is actually one of the warlords. It's like, don't bring up Jinbei. It's like, yeah, it's like I can see why because it's like you're a pirate, but worst of all, you're a pirate in servitude to the world government, and you're a fisherman pirate on top of that. So it's like there are double knocks against Jinbei in Arlong's eyes. Once again, it's like, was his name dropped this early in the anime or not? Because I don't remember. They might, once again, from his appearance in the show to like the Arlong stuff, there's a pretty big enough gap that I probably wouldn't have remembered. Once again, especially with the gap between when I picked to show up again with the Skypiea arc, like how long that would have, how much I ended up forgetting in that time frame. But yeah, I mean, once again, it's a name that probably wouldn't have meant necessarily anything to me at the time. Because obviously at that point, at this point in the series, we don't know too much about the warlords. The only one we've met so far at this point in the story is Mihawk, so. But either way, it's that thing of like what I was saying. Like, he has a fight where you're like, I can get behind it and I can understand it, but Arlong is going about it the most asshole-ish way. Because, I mean, and it's that trauma thing of what was done onto you, you will do onto someone. So like all the pain that you had to go to and the subjugation, now you're doing that to humans. That's his plan to do it to humans. Which I will also say, like, it's so interesting that Arlong's like, I'm gonna cross the Grand Line, do this and that. It's like, dude, knowing what's beyond the Grand Line, knowing all the enemies, all the pirates that are out there, you stood no chance. You would have gotten washed at any point in time, considering what's out there ahead of you. Like, once again, knowing where things go, like, you would have been washed by so many other pirates that are out there. You think you're hot stuff, but you're not. You're pretty low on the totem pole. So that's always the interesting thing now, like, looking back at these pirates who think they're hot shit. It's like, dude, I know there's dozens of pirates out there way stronger than you that the story hasn't even introduced you to yet. Those pirates would wash you in an instant. Like I said, it's just like doing unto others what was done to you, and he became, like I said, it's that good intentions, but it's like, I don't know, like I said, it's a noble fight that he has of like wanting to stand up for fishermen people. But like I said, he's going about it the most dictatorish, totalitarian way. But he's looking out for his people. And like I said, subjugating humans like humans subjugated them. It's like, right. I even love that back and forth. He's like, oh, what? He's like, oh, you're smarter than other people say you are. He's like, why? Because I'm a fisherman? He's like, no. I never meant it like that. And it's like, oh. And the guy, like, he's like, oh, I'm going to go back to our original deal. And he gives Arlong back some of the money. And Arlong's kind of like, oh, keep going. He's like, look at you. Smarter than I thought you were. It's like, I really like that. But yeah, I mean, once again, it's just, like I said, this series in general is, like, you're meant to hate villains. This series does a really good job of making you go like, oh, I hate. Like, every bad guy that the Straw Hat Crew goes against, you're like, the show gives you every reason to be like, whoop that ass. Whoop their ass. Every pirate is like shittier. The next pirate is always shittier than the last. It always goes like that because you're meant to want to, why Luffy's ready to like go to, like, Luffy doesn't go out of his way wanting to fight everyone. Once again, Garp was kind of an exception. It's like, that was kind of proof of point to his grandfather, but it's like, every pirate is just more despicable than the last, So every villainous pirate, once again, I have to distinguish because, once again, it's not just a Straw Hat Crew. There are other good pirates out there. The warlords are examples of that as well. Which, I mean, I guess you make the argument. I mean, you could flip a coin depending on how you want to view Mihawk at this point in the series, because it's like, well, he messed up Zoro, but there is a nobleism to him, despite being a warlord that has to serve the world government and the Marines. But there's also, like, the fact is that he does have his honor as a pirate. That's also something to keep in mind, too, where he had told Garp last episode, like, even if I wasn't working for the government, I'd still be doing the same thing. I'd do what I want. And I think Jinbei and a lot of not all the warlords fall in that same category of, like, yeah, they get their special connection with the world government and benefits them, but they would all still be doing the exact same thing if they didn't have that bargain going. It makes it easier and less, like, stuff they have to deal with in the long run, but once again, Mihawk merely means that when he says, like, I would still be doing the exact same thing, whatever I want, even if I didn't have this agreement with the government. But, so yeah, my point is, I just think, like, Jinbei would, like, he has a lot more freedom and just not as much of a dog to the government as Arlong has. But once again, he has a chip on his shoulder, understandably, but, so there would be no, like, convincing him otherwise when it comes to Jinbei. Like, regardless of your freedoms or whatever you get to do, you still struck a deal with the government. You struck a deal specifically with the humans. That will always put him in, like, Arlong's shit list. On his shit list, rather. But anyway, I kind of strayed so far away, and I do apologize. But there's also the whole situation with Luffy talking to Nojinko and learning about everything. And I love Sanji doing what he's doing. It's like, oh, obviously you got to be Nami's sister. Two such beautiful women. You have Zoro looking like, Jesus, give it a break, dude. He's like, right, I can cook you something that's going to be amazing. And he does. And because the reward for that was hearing the story of what happened. And yeah, they found out. And even Usopp's like, wait, Nami's working for the man who killed your mom? And Luffy and Zoro had this moment where Zoro's just kind of like, right, she kind of made her choice. But Luffy's like, I don't believe that. He's like, I believe Nami's a good person. And it's like, how do you know that? He was like, just like I knew you wouldn't kill me when I cut you down from that, from the yard in the Marine base, you know? Just like I know about Usopp and Sanji, like I know it about Nami too. He was second guessing his gut about stuff, but it's like I do trust her, and she is a good person. She just needs to believe it herself, because he sees it in her eyes. Like she thinks she's a terrible person after all that she's had to do, and he doesn't want to believe. She doesn't believe in herself in that regard. So, but once again, for her, it's like I'll do all the despicable things I need to do if it means freeing my home from Arlong once and for all. Because I do like that. That obviously struck a chord with Zoro, hearing Luffy have that perspective on it. It's like, okay, like, because I think for him, because let's not forget in episode 5, him and Nami shared drinks and stuff, and it was like a really nice moment between them. So it does, like, he was kind of assuming the worst in her too, but it's also like, right, you are a crewmate, and if our captain backs you, then once again, for Zoro, that's enough for the back Luffy's play in its own right, when he's like, okay, if not Luffy believes it, and even he's kind of believing it too, like, kind of, yeah, Nami has her issues. Yes, she can be like very like, oh, like she was going to leave you high and dry in episode 2, but she's still stuck around, and she's stuck around since, despite everything that you guys have been through. But when that's all said and done, going back to the Nami of it all, her sister found her eventually, and it's like, yeah, the money. I guess it's the safest place to keep it hidden, because no one's going to go near it. Is her mom's grave, which her sister was not too happy about that. But it's like, that's what this has all been like. This is the one place I know it would stay safe, because no one would come looking. But it's like, right, I can finally buy Cocoa Village, and every person in Cocoa Village is freedom, But for her sister, it's like, I hated you. Why didn't you tell me? It's like, because I didn't want to lose you or anyone else ever again after what happened to Mom. So I've been doing my best. That's why she was pushing the guy at the beginning. Like, he's like, right, there's no more blood to give. She's like, well, find some more blood, because if you don't do this, like, she knows what Arlong's going to do. And then he sends the Marines, and it's like, wait, how'd you know it was specifically 100 million berry? It's like, Arlong sent you. And he's like, yeah, I'm confiscating it. And it's like, it's not fair. She worked so hard. She kept up her end of the deal, but Arlong, it's like, no, you're too valued to me. I'm not going to let you go. So robbing her of all this. And I guess they're going to get a finder's fee on that 100 million. The rest of that's going to go to Arlong, but he would definitely make her start from scratch again. Be like, right, I'm sorry what happened. It got confiscated by the Marines. I guess you're just going to have to start over. It's going to take another 9 years for you to scrounge that money together. And even then, they're going to be even more, like, those card games aren't going to go that way either. Like I said, that's a little bit money here and there, but that still went a long way in helping get to that. Every bit of money ended up being worth it in the end. And obviously, she knows what this means. It's like, Arlong's going to use this as an excuse to go after Cocoa Island. Like, because they came up short with this tribute, but that was going to be my money to pay it off entirely with that 100 mil. But now it's like he has the excuse to go after Cocoa Island. She's running, and it's just like, Arlong, once again, she's like, and she's beating herself up. It's like, everything I've done, what has it all been for? If it means nothing, that my sister, everyone is going to die, and it's just like, I failed, and I've done all of this. I've betrayed so many people. I've done so many terrible things, But that kind of goes back to what the guy had said to Nami when she stole the book. It's like, right, you're not a bad person. You just did a bad thing. It's back to that. It's like, right, you're actually like the one. It's not about what you've done at your worst. It's what you do every other day that matters. And just like Nami breaking down like that, stabbing herself, and Luffy grabbing her arm. And he's like, I told you to leave. He's like, I know you did. She's like, you don't even understand what's going on here. And he's like, I don't. And just in that moment, her breaking down, and it's this powerful moment. Still got me teary eyed. I don't know if it worked that way. Like, once again, it's that thing of like, even when you know what's going to happen, it still hits. Just seeing her breaking down like that, because it's just like, you feel that, just like she it's so much that she's been carrying on her shoulders alone all these years, and just like crumbling underneath that weight, when it just feels like, what was the point of it all? It doesn't matter anymore. And just her finally saying, Luffy, help me. And he's like, of course I will. placing the straw hat on her and just screaming it. Of course I will. And then Rolling Deep got the boys with him. It's like, all right, like we're ready. Let's go kick some ass. And they're attacking Cocoa Village at this time. So ready for closing on that showdown with them. Arlong's crew versus theirs, as he's getting ready to once again start with Cocoa Village and branch out now that he has the Grand Line map. Now, on the other side of this episode, we have Garp showing up at the restaurant. Him and Zeph have history. Makes sense. Garp's an old dog in this game, and him and Zeph like crossed paths back in the day. And Zeph won't give up Luffy because it's like, hey, that kid, I like that kid. He stuck up for my restaurant. I'm not going to like, and plus, Sanji's with him, so I'm like, I'm not about to sell him out. So there's even that moment between, obviously Morgan's son's like, all right, I know something's going on. Like, why is Garp so interested in Luffy? And then you have Kobe finally break down, okay, he's Luffy's grandfather. And it's like, interesting. The list of things I thought you were going to say, that was not on it. So it's like, interesting. And he actually came at it from a different perspective, a very specific perspective. He's like, yeah, that's kind of got to be rough, kind of being under someone's hand like that. Like, right, that is say like someone like Garp, family or not, he'll still bring down the metaphorical axe on Luffy regardless, because that's just the way it is for a Marine. They got to see it through and through. But it's like, and even Kobe's like, oh, it must be hard growing up with a dad like Morgan. He's like, this shush, it's not even like that. Like, don't even compare me to Luffy. But that guy there, even though Zeph is all about like, hey, I have my pride as a pirate. I might not be a pirate anymore, but I still have my own pirate code that I still uphold. Sadly, that code doesn't apply to the people at his restaurants. Like, if Zeph ever finds out, he's going to kick that dude's ass for selling out Luffy and them. But Zeph and him had this interesting conversation about Luffy. Because, like, once again, Kobe had made that point of, like, right, like, what if, like things aren't so black and white. Like, Luffy is a true blue pirate, but he's not like everyone else. Like, he is true to himself as a pirate, but he's a good guy through and through. And, Zeph sees something special, and he's like, that kid is something special. And it's this interesting conversation kind of between parents being like about letting go. It's like, because Zeph is like, right, my time is up. I live my life, but now I've hung up my pirating hat. I'm just a chef now. And he's like, but now it's time for that new younger generation to do their thing. This world is theirs to kind of take. And all we can do is pass the torch and let them go off on their own. Where he had to kind of let Sanji finally go. It's like they both had to let their kids go. It's like Garp won't let Luffy go, but Zeph had to let Sanji go last episode. So as a father who had to let his son go, it's like he's telling Garp like don't hold on so tight. It's time to kind of let him go. Let him spread his wings. That go out there in the open seas. Because for Garp, it's like, because once again, he doesn't want his grandson, he doesn't want Luffy to end up like any other pirate. Like, because it's like, who he reminds me of? Goldie Rogers. And it's like, do not, and see what happened to him. It's like, I won't let my grandson be at the end of all of that. Once again, there's that angle, like I brought up before. There's also the angle of, well, his father. It's like, Garp doesn't want Luffy to be anything like his dad. That's why he pushed so hard. But also just so, because he's like, every pirate will eventually, it's like, no matter how rambunctious and how full of spirit and how big their dreams are, these pirates will never be able to stop an entire force like the Marines. I mean, let's not mince words. There's some tough mother effers in the Marines. As you progress through the series, obviously you get to meet some of them. But it's like, yeah, like there's no way you're going to escape that, because he still sees Luffy as like, oh, that small child that I try to toughen up. But like Luffy, yeah, what you did helped toughen him up, but he also toughened up on his own. And Luffy is going to go out there and embrace and follow his dream. And he's not going to let anything or anyone stop him from it, Like I said, I said that before. It's like Garp is coming from a good place. I'm like, yeah, he just wants to protect his grandkid. But it's just like, even if I have to be the bad guy in this situation, I will be the bad guy. At least Luffy will be alive to like dislike me or hate me for it. So, but they ended up getting Luffy's location, and now they're on their way to the Konomi Islands to track him down. So, It all comes to a head next episode, the season finale. Obviously, we know what's awaiting us. I cannot wait to see the season come to an end, and also to see if my predictions about some of the stuff they might tease that we might get at the end of this season finale, we'll ultimately have to wait to see. But I'm very, very excited to see this all play out and come to its conclusion. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.